Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another edition of Making You a Bartending Pro. I'm Jason. So this is the 48-hour cash machine. This is the first module in the Bartending Blueprint Professional Bartender Training Program and is designed to get you up and working as fast as possible, even if you have zero experience. And it's called the 48-hour cash machine because theoretically you could take this and within 48 hours start working and making money immediately. And what we're talking about here is starting to do private parties. We're going to try to get you to be a private party bartender. Now with private parties, people think, well, how much money can you make as a private party bartender? So the range for private parties usually is about 50 bucks on the low end, up to about $200-ish, $300-ish on the high end, with your average to be about $100, which is what we're going to shoot for when we're starting out. Even when we're brand new, we're going to start shooting for 100 bucks per job. But really you can make as much money as you can get. I mean, if you're gonna do something special or wear a special outfit and you feel that you need to be compensated more than like 100 bucks, you know, whatever you think you can get, that's how much you should charge. I mean, if you think that you can get $1,000 and they're gonna go for it, then hey, charge them 1,000 bucks. You are the professional here. They're hiring you. Trickiest thing with private parties, and really to set the whole thing off, we just need that first gig. We just need that very first job, because as I'm going to talk about in a little while, there's going to be all kinds of things that we're going to do once we're at the party to get more parties. Now the best way to do this is just start with our circle of influence, right? Your friends, your family, your coworkers. Just throw a party. Or if somebody else is having a birthday or it's a holiday coming up, throw a party, go in, play bartender, invite people to come over, even if they're not paying you for this first gig, right? Even if they're just, you know, friends and family coming over and they're gonna let you play bartender for them, and it's just good practice. So start with our circle of influence of friends. Chances are you're not gonna get paid for that gig, but it's practice and it's experience for you to start getting comfortable with this whole deal. Now the other thing that's kind of intimidating when you're thinking about doing this, if you're new to bartending, is that you feel that it might be, when you see it in your head, that you might be the focus of attention and everybody's gonna be standing around like, yeah, go, make me a drink, yeah, yeah, but really they're not. We're gonna do a bunch of cool things to try to get attention because we're generally gonna be kind of stuffed over in the corner, out of the way. We're not, and usually you're gonna be standing around doing this most of the time, just kind of like smiling at people and waiting for somebody to come order some drink or a beer or wine or whatever from you. So you're not gonna be bombarded with drinks. So don't feel like you're just gonna get totally slammed. Like I said before, this is gonna be very, very, very simple, basic bartending stuff, trust me. So the easiest place to look for formal gigs is definitely Craigslist. And if you're a Bartending Blueprint member, there's a link down underneath this video where you can download a Craigslist ad that I've actually pre-formatted for you, that you can just basically put your information in, your name and your contact information, and plaster it right up on Craigslist as is, and you're good to go. What I would recommend is to take this and personalize it a little bit, you know, besides your name and your phone number and stuff. Try to give a little bit of a flavor for your personality if you can, but the other thing we want to do is to try to make a couple versions of this. If you've ever gone on Craigslist, the way that the listings work is that the new listings go up to the top every day, right? And old listings kind of get pushed down. Optimally, I mean, the best situation would try to come up with 7 different versions of this ad and then post them once a week. And then you start over at the start of the next week, because the algorithm, from what I've been able to tell, only tracks ads for about a week. But if you try to just put the same ad every single day in the same section on Craigslist, it'll go like, hey, sorry, this ad already exists, and it won't let you do it. And you don't have to change it a lot, just a couple of words, maybe add a picture or take a picture out or something, or change the headline a little bit, and then it will look like a different ad to the algorithm on Craigslist, and you'll be able to repost it. So if you can get a few ads rotating, then that's going to be the best exposure. Again, this is a little bit advanced. You don't have to do this. You can just take the one ad, post it up once, and then every few days I think it'll let you go into the ad and say refresh this ad, and it'll repost it again for you. Now another little trick to help your ad get found on Craigslist is that you can put a block of keywords at the bottom. So you can put private party bartender, or put any sort of holiday, so like 4th of July, weddings, New Year's, Halloween, bar mitzvahs, whatever sort of, any sort of celebration, just put that down on the bottom. The other thing is that you want to make sure that in the headline of the ad it says private party bartender for hire. And you can change that, tweak that a little bit, but basically just needs to be clear enough so that somebody can read it and go, okay, I get what that is. That's some dude who wants to get hired to be a bartender. So once our ad starts getting found, when somebody calls you or emails you, what's the first question you think they're going to ask? Not if you have any experience, it's going to be how much. They want to know how much. Again, you can price and ask for whatever you think you can get or whatever you're worth, and be a little bit open-ended in your answer. Say like, I usually, on average, my gigs are about $100, but depending on the party, it might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less. I need to know more details. And then you're starting a conversation with them. Now, if you have them on the phone, you want to try to get them to give you some of these questions I'm going to give you in a minute, and get them engaged with you, because the longer you can talk to them on the phone, the higher the probability is that they will hire you for the gig. If they say how much and they say, okay, I'm going to call you back, chances are they're not going to call you back. So try to keep them on the phone, and you'll be able to tell from the person if that feels a little bit high, that you can kind of come down a little bit, or if that feels a little bit low, you can say, but that's where I start, and if it's a bigger party or whatever, yada, 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 and you can build up from there. They may ask you about a tip jar, and we'll just mention it now. Generally, you want to have a tip jar if possible. Ask them, hey, is it cool if I put a tip jar out? And they might say no, and say like, okay, well then I need at least $100 for the gig, you know, or whatever you want to say. And by the way, even if you agree with the party person, the person that hires you, that, hey, I'm just going to pay you $100 and no tip jar. Because some people don't want a tip jar out there. But you'll always, I don't think I've ever worked a private party and not had extra tips from the person that hired you, and also from the people that are at the party. You will rarely ever just make what you're agreed upon for the gig. So if we've got their attention, we've had the conversation about how much, we need to ask them a couple questions so that we can prepare for the gig properly. First question obviously is, what is this for? What is the occasion? And this is important because we need to dress the part. So big key number one to being part of the party and being involved in the party is dressing the part. If this is like a Halloween party, we don't want to show up just in a regular white collared shirt and slacks. You want to dress up like it's Halloween, because that way you're fitting in and not being just some guy or girl making drinks over in the corner. Next thing we need to know is, what is the age range or the average age range for the party? And this could be all over the map, and this will you might be able to figure this out by what the party is for, but still ask them like, what's the average age range? And they'll usually give you a good idea about the types of drinking that's going to go down, right? If this is a college graduation, people are just going to be shots and pedal to the metal, blacked out, wasted. But if this is for like a 5-year-old's birthday party, which I don't know why they would hire a bartender, but you never know, there's obviously not going to be very much drinking. Or like maybe a book club meeting, right? It's probably going to be a mellow scene. So asking this is, what we're trying to do with this question is figure out what is kind of the vibe of the party and the type of drinking or drinkers that are going to be there. Next question we want to ask them is, what are the types of drinks that you want to have at the party? And they might turn that around and go like, well, I don't know, I was hoping that you could help me out with that. And we can do this to a certain extent, but be careful. Do not get sucked in to planning their party for them. Say, I don't really know your guest or their preference for drinking, so I'll leave that up to you. What I do recommend is that I would plan on having roughly enough supplies to be able to have 3 to 5 drinks per person that's going to be drinking, which is kind of a lot. So I usually just say 3. I usually say have enough so that you have 3 drinks per person that you think is going to be drinking. And then that way it goes back on them, because they have to think about, okay, well, I'm gonna have Aunt Susan who drinks a lot, but then Uncle Bob's gonna be here and he doesn't drink at all, maybe have a beer, and let them figure that out. And if they want some basics, you could say, well, usually you can get a few different types of alcohols, like a vodka, a rum, a tequila, or whatever they might want, and then 1 or maybe 2 mixers for each of those types of drinks. So you can maybe get vodka and soda, rum and Coke, You know, you can get orange juice for the vodka. You can get gin and tonic. So very simple, two-part, you know, this alcohol, this mixer. And that's why I say this is very, very, very simple bartending. So one thing I should mention is how many drinks can you get out of each bottle. So if your standard 1 liter bottle that you'll find in most bars they are approximately 33, almost 34 ounces. So that gives you anywhere from 15 to 20 drinks per bottle, per 1 liter bottle, especially if you're gonna be pouring into that party cup size. So think 15 drinks per bottle, because if somebody's trying to do the math in their head of like, okay, well I have how many people are coming and how many drinks do I need, that'll give you a good idea. Your mixers, you usually want to have 2 to 1. So if you have 1 liter of rum, then you want to have 2 liters of Coke, right? And again, this is just kind of a rough guideline, but that'll usually be pretty accurate for what you need. Maybe get a few beers, and they don't need a selection of beers, just get, you know, 2 or 3 cases or whatever they think of one type of beer. A couple different types of wines, maybe a white and a red. And that's generally the extent of what your booze is going to be at these parties. And that's why I say this is very, very simple. Next thing we need to know is the date, time, location. And this is important, obviously, so that we know where the hell we're going, but you also need to pay attention to the environment that you're gonna be in. Like if this is in the summer and it's gonna be hot as hell outside, make sure that you have the proper clothing so that you don't get fried and sunburned. If you're a person that gets sunburned like me, ask them if there's, you know, if you can wear a hat or if there's an umbrella. You need to be paying attention to make sure that you not only dress appropriately for the party to fit in, but you also wanna make sure that if it's going to be outside, which a lot of times private parties are, that you don't either get heat stroke or freeze to death. And the last kind of major question that we need to know is how many people. Generally, for a good rule of thumb is that about 50 people is a good number for you to handle as a single bartender. So if they say we have a list of 150 confirmed guests, don't take that gig as the only bartender. Now, here's something you can kind of just play like you have a business here. Don't turn down big parties, because you can go on Craigslist the same way that you found this gig and find bartenders that will come work for you at the party. A good rule of thumb is 50 people per bartender. Now this is a little bit tricky though, because a problem with private parties is that people will way overestimate how cool they think they are and how many people are coming. If they say, well, I invited 50 people, that's not the same as saying we have 50 people confirmed. Roughly, you're gonna lose anywhere from, I've seen 25 to 50%. I'd say almost a third to a half of the people that are invited won't show up. Now, this is where you kind of have to have a conversation with them to try to figure out exactly how many people are coming. If they say like, well, there could be 30 or there could be 130, then you need to tell them like, well, you know, all due respect, I need to try to get this a little more accurate so that I can make sure that I can give you and your guests the best service possible. Then the last thing to remind them about before you let them off the phone, especially if it sounds like you're gonna be getting this gig, or if you're talking to them about supplies on another phone call, make sure to tell them to get plenty of ice. However much ice they think they need, they almost need to double it. And I usually just throw out, hey, whatever ice you're planning on getting, make sure to get an extra bag or 2, because we always end up running out of ice. And if they ask you why, just say, well, like I've never worked a private party and not ran out of ice. Or if you don't want to say, if you're not comfortable saying that, you can say that I, who am your colleague, have told you that every party that we work, we run out of ice. So now that we have all the basic questions that we need to know so that we can start planning out for this party, the next thing we need to do is figure out what we need to bring for ourselves to be able to work this party. So let me go get all the tools here. So these are all the basic tools that we need to bring to a party to make sure that we can do our job. First thing, obviously, is some sort of shaking and straining device. Now, chances are that you're not really going to be making martinis and shooters, but it's just a cool thing that looks very professional, and you never know if you have a proper ice scoop, so it can kind of double as an ice scooper if you need to. So shaker tin, mixing tin, straining device of some sort. Then we need a bottle opener, multi-tool bottle opener, so that we can do beer bottles and also wine. Even if you don't have wine planned, there's always that person that's going to bring a bottle of wine. So make sure that the bottle opener that you bring is a multi-tool bottle opener. But you also want to bring a cool, kind of snazzy church key, as they call these, bottle opener, speed bottle opener. And this is just one that's cool to have in your pocket that you can open beers with. So we want to have a flat church key style bottle opener. Pour spouts, always good to bring pour spouts. This helps with our speed and control so that we know exactly how much is going into the drinks. And I'll usually bring a few, you know, 3, 4, 5, however many bottles that they said they're going to have of types of alcohols. Try to bring that many pour spouts. So we have our pour spouts here. The other thing, in case we have bottles that are too big, right? Because sometimes these won't fit, these pour spouts won't fit into giant Costco bottles, which is Sam's Club or any of those big wholesaler type stores, and the bottles are giant and the tops are too big, so these pour spouts won't fit in there. Sometimes they will, but usually they're too big, in which case we need a measuring device. You can bring one of these guys, or you can bring one of these. So that way we have some sort of measuring device or technique. We have some way to measure how much alcohol is going into the glasses, which, by the way, we should bring party cups. So red or blue, just kind of plastic party cups. Now this is something that you should talk to them about when you're preparing for the party, right? You'll probably do a couple of back and forths with people. They'll probably have party cups. I will tend to bring just one bag of these things just in case they don't have any and they don't want to use their plastic, their like glassware from the house. So these are a good idea to bring. Now, for these, if you're making drinks into these, trick to a good cocktail, always full of ice, right? And then you want to make this 1.5 ounces-ish, maybe 2 ounces at the most. But I usually do them about 1.5 ounces. And the reason is that we don't want to make these too strong because people will get wasted. They're not going to remember us, number one, but if the drinks are really strong, we're going to miss out on chances for them to come back and talk to us more often. Because remember, the whole point of all of this is to get, obviously to make some money, but to get other private party gigs. So if you're pouring these really strong, people aren't going to come back and get more. So if anything, pour them on the weak side. And if people are what I call varsity drinkers, you know, those pro drinkers, they will come back and go like, hey, kick that up for me. In which case you can, you know, pour a little more or a lot more in there. It doesn't matter. This isn't like a real traditional bar setting. You can pour triples, quadruples in here if you want to, because we are not bringing the booze, right? So don't bring the alcohol. Don't buy it. Don't bring it. Because generally you have to have a special license to do that. Now, if the person that hired you buys and brings and supplies the alcohol, that means that any sort of liability of what happens at the party is on them. If we bring and supply the alcohol, the liability is on us. And if you want to get into that that's a whole different business in and of itself, like mobile bar bartending, and you need to have special licenses and check with your state regulations to make sure you're within compliance, and because you put yourself at a huge liability doing that. This is very just kind of quick and dirty. Like, we're going in there basically as somebody who has this shit and they can pour the booze that they buy for us. Okay, so bring the cups, pour them kind of weak. If people want more, they'll come ask. Next thing we need is thumbtacks. I'll talk about that in a minute. Muddlers, right? You probably won't use this, but just in case, it's good to have. Now, the next thing we need is a channel knife or a zester knife. And what this is for is that we're gonna cut peels off of fruit. I'm gonna show you in a second so that we can make these cool, fancy, snazzy garnishes. But just put this on the list for now, zester or channel knife, right? So see that little notch in that knife there? That's what we need it for. Straws, We need a couple of straws. Get a box of straws, right? Don't just bring 2, but maybe bring some straws and thumbtacks, and I'll show you why we need these thumbtacks in a second. And the garnish tray, right? This is a bonus. You don't have to do this. Another thing is to have these sugar salt rimmers. Sugar salt rimmers, these are cool, like if you're gonna be serving margaritas. Just might not use it, but I'll always bring it just in case. The other thing we need is bar towels. Bar towels, just basic, so that we can keep our hands dry and clean. And then that way, if you spill anything, you don't want to be scrambling and grab a really nice towel or blanket out of the linen closet to mop up our mess that we made. So try to bring a couple of towels if possible. Some other things that we need are cool business cards, which I'm going to talk about these in a minute. You don't have to, that's kind of a bonus thing. And then some fruit. Just a couple of pieces of fruit. We don't need a lot of these. We're not going to make the garnishes for the entire party. And if they want you to make garnishes for the party, then you can tell them, hey, buy the fruit. I can prep it that day if you want me to, but try to get them to do that part, right? Because this can be very time consuming. So usually I'll get 2 oranges, 2 limes, 2 lemons, just because we're gonna use these to make a couple of cool fancy garnishes I'm gonna show you how to make next. So now that we have all this stuff, I want to show you one of the cool things that we're going to use these pieces of fruit for, and that is to make some cool fancy special garnishes. And the reason that we're going to do that is it's going to, again, help us get attention so that we can get other gigs. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with these couple pieces of fruit, and we're going to take our channel knife, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a peel. Not a twist, a peel. And you want fruit that's kind of firm, right? You're not necessarily looking for the ripest fruit. You're looking for kind of firm fruit. Limes are okay, but it tends to be kind of thin. What we do, take the pieces of paper off the fruit, channel knife. We're gonna start at the top of the fruit, cutting in with our channel knife. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little peel we can use to help us get attention from the right people so that we can keep going on with more gigs in the future, okay? And it just looks cool, right? So you can set this out here and have zest all over me. Private party business cards. Now you can get these made very cheap on Vistaprint. You can actually even get business cards made free. You can go just Google free business cards, and there's really cheapo services where they'll do stuff like put their logo down in the corner and they'll send you free business cards. I would say pony up the 20 bucks or 30 bucks and get 100 freaking cards made. And what you can do is then just set these out at the private party. And then this just elevates your professionalism and increases the likelihood that we're gonna get more gigs. But all you need on there is just name, professional bartender, available for weddings, birthdays, banquets, private parties, and your phone number. And you can maybe put your email. Like I forgot my email, so I put it on a little sticker, put it on the back. So back to our peel. You want to keep it one consistent cut, right? Don't do it in sections. And what we do is we're going to take a straw, and this is why we need our thumbtacks. We're going to take a thumbtack, make sure these are new and clean and not rusty and disgusting. And we're going to stick one end. So we're going to just kind of stick that in there into the straw, right? And then we're going to twist this around the straw. And what's going to happen is that is going to, in just a short period of time, we'll hold its shape with this curly Q spiraled effect, and we're going to use these to put them on garnishes for certain people. And this is part of the prep that we want to do when we show up before the party. So keep in mind that you want to show up roughly an hour before the party starts so that we can do this kind of stuff. We can get our bar all set up and be ready to rock and roll by the time people get there. Getting it all the way down to the bottom, and then what you're going to do is stick another thumbtack down at the other end, because you're handling this and then you're gonna be putting it into people's drinks, make sure that your hands are clean before you start this. Obviously, cleanliness is important. And there we go. There's a cool little fancy garnish peel that we made. Now, here's a couple that I made earlier. So I'll leave that in there just because it won't hold its shape if I take it off right now. So what we can do is take these and pull the little pins out. And I made, so when I did this, see how it's kind of spaced out? You can do a little bit tighter if you want, like if you want to make a few of these. So this, basically when I made one of these earlier, I made the spirals a lot tighter, and I basically got about a straw and a half worth out of these. Now with a full straw worth of these peels on here, you can get 2 or maybe 3 drinks out of this length. And that's all we need. We don't need this for everybody. We want to give these to the host. We want to give these to a couple of social butterflies, which I'll explain why in a minute, and maybe one for that cute little thing in the corner that caught your eye. So this is roughly about a half-ish straw's worth. So just kind of pull the thumbtacks out and sort of untwist it a little bit. And then you're gonna hang this on the edge of the glass like so. And this is basically just a special garnish for certain special people. Now, what kind of drink you put this on, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you could put it on a plastic cup if you want to, right? But, you know, just for examples purposes so you can see the effect that it is cool looking, I'm gonna put it in this martini glass. So, who are the social butterflies that we're looking for? The people that come in and they're outgoing and they know everybody and they're, you know, maybe loud and obnoxious a little bit, but they are definitely making their way around the crowd and everybody either knows them or knows that they're in the room. Those are our targets that we want for these special drinks. That person comes up and orders a drink, you can go like, oh my God, that's the special drink. And she'll go, oh, what's the special drink? And you're like, well, this, and then you can pull it out and you put the little garnish on there and like, that is the special drink. And the special drink is just whatever the hell they're drinking, right? It's not that the drink is special, it's that they're special, but don't tell them that, right? And then you put this on there and they go walk around and now everybody asks them like, what is that? Like, well, this is the special drink. And I got it from that smashingly handsome bartender out there. So people are gonna come up to you like, oh, I want a special drink, I want a special drink. They're gonna see our layout, they're gonna see our fancy fruit, they're gonna see our fancy business cards, they're gonna see our get up and our attire, and we are going to get opportunities for more private parties. So that's the whole point of this little fancy fruit garnish thing, is to get us other private parties. And if you do all this, one, you're gonna be very memorable. You are going to interact with a lot of cool people, have a lot of cool conversations, and hopefully get some leads for some more gigs. Okay, so now we know what we're doing, right? Private party bartender. We know how to get the gigs, circles of influence, ads on Craigslist. We know the questions to ask to prepare. We know what to bring to be prepared. We know how to dress. We know how to be visible to other clients, other potential clients at these parties, and that we just need that very first gig and everything we need to really pull this off and get started. Now, the booking opportunity and how many private parties are available to you is obviously going to depend on your area. If you live in very rural parts of the country or the world, then there's going to be less opportunity. But if you live in very urban or suburban parts of the world, then there's going to be a lot of opportunity for this. And very basic, very simple, sustainable income potential. Like I said, you're going to average probably about $100 per job. And there's a lot of opportunity for this to grow into a much bigger business. As you could probably tell just from the basics of doing this, it's not hard to take this real simple kind of outline and grow this bigger and bigger. If you get good at getting clients and party gigs coming in, you can hire out other bartenders and all of a sudden have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 bartenders working underneath you, and you're just taking cuts of everything that they're doing. Or you can just cherry pick and pick the best parties, and then you can hire out the rest of the stuff. So remember, very simple, unlimited potential. The drinks are gonna be very easy. Don't worry about if you have experience. Throw a party with your friends. It'll be essentially the same thing. That's why I say within a couple of days, you could start doing this. I mean, you could start practice your pouring in one day, put an ad on Craigslist, and if there's a party this weekend, there's a very good likelihood that you could get hired and be working within a couple of days. Get out there and kick some ass. If you have any questions, leave them underneath in the comments below. I'll make sure to help you out, clarify anything. If you're a new viewer, maybe think about subscribing so that you can get other updates and be the first to know when I come out with other cool videos like this. And let me know how it goes out there. Let me know if you're having problems or if you get a party gig and you start kicking ass. Okay, that's it for this lesson. I'm Jason. This was making you a bartending pro. I'll see you next time. Take care. For more, check out these playlists. And subscribe to get new videos.